Executive Director of Right on Crime. Brett, great to see you today. As you look at what's happened here with Donald Trump, tell me what you expect to happen next. We've talked a lot about this being a two-tier justice system, but now Donald Trump will avail himself of the justice system in Manhattan, in New York. What will happen next, Brett? Will there be motions on the Trump attorney's side? What should we watch after Tuesday?
Well, what you're going to see right off the bat, Will, is a very serious defense by Donald Trump and his attorneys. There's no joking around right now. The conviction rate across this country is over 90% once you've been charged. So they have to take it incredibly seriously. Notwithstanding that, there's a motion and several motions that are going to be filed immediately. I predict that their first motion is going to be a motion to dismiss the case as being outside the statute of limitations. This is a misdemeanor case that is well outside the statute of limitations. The argument the prosecution is going to make is that it was told during the pandemic. But I'll tell you, Will, I've never heard of a pandemic exception to the statute of limitations. So that, I believe, will be their first motion to get rid of this case.
It seems the most obvious one as well, Brett. It seems to be the technicality in this case that makes it, in fact, a mockery, that reveals it to be a political witch hunt. But that still being said, to your point, 90% conviction rates. That's the way the criminal justice system is brought. That you have the entire weight of the whether or not it's the American, the U.S. government, or the local government behind a prosecution. As well, you have judges and you have potential juries. Can Donald Trump in New York expect a fair and impartial judge and a fair and impartial jury?
You know, it's a great question, Will. I'm glad you highlighted this issue. 90 years ago, a famous justice on the Supreme Court, Justice Sutherland, said that the prosecutor is the servant of the law and that it was his duty to never do something to manipulate the justice system in order to achieve a conviction. What we're seeing is that manipulation. We've crossed that line. That prosecutor is going to do everything they can to present a case, and even in the number of counts. The objective in adding 30 counts, for example, Will, is merely the optics to present to a jury that this is more serious than just the one issue with Stormy Daniels. And that this is a very serious matter with lots of criminal counts in this indictment. That sends a message to the judge. It sends a message to the jury. It's unfair, but it's within the bounds of the prosecutor's prerogative, and many prosecutors do it.
Yeah, I think it's always important to repeat, Brett, this isn't about a porn star. It's not about an alleged extramarital affair. It's not about, quote unquote, hush money or non-disclosure agreements. This is about a booking error or an accounting error. Whether or not it's an error or not will be a fact finding for a jury. This is simply about accounting, which is a misdemeanor. But last question for you, Brett, as we look forward then. If this is the case, what happens in Alabama? What happens in Texas? What happens when it comes to retribution, when it comes to prosecutors that hold different political views and, by the way, political promises to their constituency than Alvin Bragg?
We don't realize the magnitude of the moment right now in history that we're standing in. It will be the change in landscape that converts prosecutors. We were trending in this direction with all the politics behind a lot of prosecutorial discretion. But now it's out in the open and it's blatant, and we're going to see it on both sides. We will never go back. You cannot put the genie back in the bottle. This is something that will change the landscape of this country forever.
Brett Tolman, thank you so much for helping to put, as you mentioned, as you put into context, this moment in history, putting that into context. Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, Will.
Now, while Brett and I look